Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Berkeley. I'm Reverend Marcus Liefert, and I am so glad to see you this morning, so glad to be with you. If you're visiting with us for the first time, I especially want to warmly welcome you, no matter who you are or how you make your living, no matter how you experience the sacred or whom you love. We hope that you will feel welcome here in the fullness of your being. If you have something on your heart this morning that you would like lifted up in our service today, there's a book on the table in the back where you can write a joy or a sorrow, a grief or gratitude, and I'll lift it up out loud during the service. Or there's candles there you can light alongside writing or just silently for a private memory or prayer. Don't be alarmed at the end of the service when the alarm goes off. I'll say more about it later. We're having our fire drill, first time since before the pandemic, I think, today. So just so you know, we're going to get really centered and then we're going to get alarmed, and don't get alarmed. Okay. Take a deeper breath, if you will. Fully arrive in this moment. Turn off anything that makes noise. We are going to be listening deeply this month. That's our theme, listening in the dark, finding depth amidst the frenetic as the holiday season courses down upon us. We're going to remember to take time to listen to those quieter, darker parts. Today we'll start by exploring listening to the shy soul and think about some of the work of Parker Palmer and how he imagines the soul. Will you rise in body or spirit? And as we begin this season that is Advent in the Christian calendar, we'll sing, "People Look East."
Good morning. I'm Smiley, and I am your worship associate for today. Well, thank you. Good morning again to you. As we light our chalice to begin our service, we remind ourselves that our church occupies land in Huchiun. This is the unceded territory of the Chochenyo-speaking Ohlone Indians people. May we have the humility and the courage to do our part to restore what has been broken and the wisdom to live into a new solidarity with indigenous communities and the earth. Let us kindle our chalice flame with these words by Scott Taylor. What is it about this flame that opens our ears? Opens our hearts? Come back to your center, it calls. Return to that quiet space we long for and that longs for us. From this stillness, always a voice arises, if we let it. So come, friends, let us listen once again. Let us find that flame inside that guides us back home. And would you join with me in saying our covenant? Okay, love guides this church. The quest for truth and justice is its common purpose: to give thanks, listen deeply, speak with care, honor our differences, and seek and grant forgiveness. These things we covenant with one another.
Peace. The pasture gleams and glooms 'neath billowing skies that scatter and amass. Around our nest, far as the eye can see, are golden kingcup fields with silver edge, where the cow parsley skirts the hawthorn hedge. 'Tis visible silence, still as the hourglass. Deep in the sun-searched growths, the dragonfly hangs like a blue thread loosened from the sky. So this winged hour is dropped to us from above. Oh, clasp we to our hearts for deathless dower, this close companion yet inarticulate hour, when twofold silence was the song of love.
We conclude our food drive this Sunday, and so we've got some special words, a special story. Adeline Lemieux is going to tell a special story for kids. Would you want to come on up to the stairs, or anybody who feels like getting closer for the story? You're always welcome.
So this is a rendition that I found online of the stone soup story. Once upon a time, a wise old man decided to go on a journey. So he packed a small bag, said goodbye to his wife, and set off. He traveled all day without meeting anyone. When it was evening, he came to a small village. "I think I'll stop here for the night," he said to himself. Near the center of the village, he met a group of people, so he introduced himself. "I'm a simple traveler," he said, "looking for a safe place to sleep and a hot meal." "We'd be glad to offer you a place to sleep," the villagers told him, "but we have very little food. Our crops were very poor this year, and there's not much to eat in the whole village. Most of us are just getting by." "I'm sorry to hear that," the old man said, "but you needn't worry about feeding me. I already have everything I need. In fact, I was thinking of making some stone soup to share with you." "Stone soup?" the villagers asked. "What's that? We've never heard of stone soup." "Oh, it's wonderful," said the old man. "Best soup I've ever tasted. If you bring me a soup pot and some water, I'll make some for all of us." And so the villagers rushed back to their homes. When they returned, one was carrying a large soup pot, and another had wood for a fire, and others brought water. When the fire was going and the water had begun to boil, the old man took out a small silk pouch. With great ceremony, he reached in and pulled out a smooth, round stone. He carefully dropped the stone into the boiling water. The villagers watched eagerly. The old man began to slowly stir the pot, sniffing the aroma and licking his lips in anticipation. "I do like a tasty stone soup," he said. "Of course, stone soup with cabbage. Now that's really special." "I might be able to find a bit of cabbage," one villager said, and off she went to her house, returning with a small cabbage she had stored away in her pantry. "Wonderful," said the old man as he added the cabbage to the pot. "This reminds me of the time I had stone soup with cabbage and a bit of salted beef. It was unbelievably good." After a moment of silence, the village butcher spoke up. I know where there's a bit of salted beef." And off he went to his shop to get it. When he returned, the old man added the beef to the soup pot and continued to stir. "Can you imagine what the soup would taste like if we had a bit of onion and perhaps a few potatoes, a carrot or two, and some mushrooms? Oh, this would be a meal fit for royalty." And before he knew it, the soup pot was filled to the brim with vegetables of all kinds: carrots and potatoes, mushrooms and onions, turnips and green beans, beets and celery, all brought by the men and women and children of that village. Not only that, but the village baker came out with some fresh bread and butter. And as the soup simmered over the fire, the wonderful aroma began to waft over the villagers, and they began to relax and talk together, sharing songs and stories and jokes. When the soup was finally done, the old man ladled it out into bowls, and they all shared a delicious meal together. There was more than enough for everyone to eat their fill. Afterwards, they declared that it was the best soup they had ever tasted. The mayor of the village pulled the old man aside and quietly offered him a great deal of money for the magic stone, but the old man refused to sell it. Next morning, he woke up early and packed up his belongings. As he was leaving the village, he passed by a group of children playing on the side of the road. He handed the youngest one a silk pouch containing the stone and whispered it was not the magic of the stone that performed the magic. It was all of us together.
Today finishes our annual food drive to benefit the Richmond Emergency Food Pantry, and today we are here to bless the food. My family has been a part of this church since before I was alive, and I've been participating in the food drive for as long as I can remember. For the past month, we have been collecting donations for the Richmond Emergency Food Pantry, and today we are here to bless it before sending it off. The Richmond Food Pantry will use these donations to benefit people who don't have a lot of resources and will help people put some food on their table. I hope that you will join us now as we bless the food. May our donations of food and funds feed our neighbors who hunger. May our givings remind us we are all connected, all part of the same village. And when we have more than enough, may we give with open hearts. And when we are the ones in need, may we find we can depend on the kindness of others. Thank you.
Line, will you join me in singing our children out?
Sing and rejoice. Here we go. Sing and rejoice. Sing and rejoice. Let all things living now sing and rejoice. Sing and rejoice. Sing and rejoice. Let all things living now sing and rejoice. Sing and rejoice. Sing and rejoice. Let all things living now let all things living now sing and rejoice. Sing and rejoice. Let all things living now let all things living now sing and rejoice. Sing and rejoice. Let all things living now let all things living now sing and rejoice.
The theme of our service today is listening for the shy soul. Well, I hid my shy soul for 60 plus years. What did I hide? I did not listen. I listened poorly for the first 60 years of my life. So what blocked my soul from listening and expressing itself? It was pretty simple. I was born and raised to be a man, and what a man does is a man drinks and a man gets angry. And that's the extent of the expression of the soul or anything else. And I was told many, many times throughout my childhood that the word love is for sissies and women. I was 35 years old before I could say, I love ice cream without getting to the word I love, just cringing in my gut. I can say it now many times as you want, but it took me a long time is my point. My wife Julie and I go to NVC treats. We used to every year. They no longer have them. I learned a lot about expressing myself, and I learned how to listen from other points of view. I've done a lot of 12-step work. I am currently now, and it's incredibly helpful to learn how to listen, especially for a person like me who's been stubborn for 60-plus years. And my wife, Julia. You want to talk to a beautiful person who can teach you how to listen? I have her, so she's so helpful in my life. I've learned how to look at another point of view. And I have some words here by Rachel Remen. She is my hero. She says, I suspect that the most basic and powerful way to connect to another person is to listen. Just listen. Perhaps the most important thing we ever give one another is our attention, and especially if it's given from the heart. Especially if it's given from the heart. When people are talking, there's no need to do anything but receive them. Just take them in. Listen to what they're saying. Care about it. Most times, caring about it is even more important than understanding it. I love that phrase. Most of us don't value ourselves or our love enough to know this. It has taken me a long time to believe in the power of simply saying, "I'm so sorry," when someone is in pain, and meaning it. The simple thing has not been that easy. This simple thing has not been easy to learn. It certainly went against everything I had been taught since I was very young. I thought people listened only because they were too timid or to speak, or they did not know the answer. A loving silence often has more power to heal and to connect than the most well-intentioned words. End quote. Dr. Remen's words sing to my soul, and they help me understand that listening is the most important part of my quest to give to people, and to give to other people, and to help them enjoy their life more. Because that's my main goal in life. I've found the purpose of life, to give to people and help them enjoy their life more. 10 words against 50 quintillion zillion that have been written about it. And I would love to have a conversation with every one of you who is hearing me speak today. And I promise I will do my absolute best to listen with my heart and to give. Thank you all.
know you can't see. I know you can't see. I am calling out to
I invite you to rest more deeply into your seat, to feel your connection down to this good, this holy earth. To quiet that which is always wondering, always asking, always noticing, to become still. Via Negativa by Reverend Mark Bellatini. Not the silence of a child finally asleep in a crib. Not the silence of pear blossoms falling. Not the silence of singers after the song. Not the silence of embarrassed strangers. Not the silence of streets when gunshot stops. Not the silence of rage, not the red-faced silence of frustration, not the silence of the exhausted, not the silence of the gardener gardening alone, but this. The silence of those who have been together and do not need to hide their aloneness with words. The silence of lovers who have come to a place of quiet comfort. The silence of a newborn at breast. The silence of an overflowing human heart. An overflowing human heart under the stars at night. The silence of long holding still. Friends in a tender embrace. let us dwell in this silence together. Each week in this community of care and witness, we hold one another through the seasons of our lives. Holy mystery, great spirit beyond all naming, we lift up prayers requested by Dr. Maria Michael, for Lorraine Margaret Black, who passed peacefully last night. Please pray for her the next 4 days, that her spirit passes over to the Star Nation people, where her spirit can be free to fly. Bless her family that grieves. Prayers and thanks for this congregation, especially the Chalice Circle. Remembrance to our poetic nature and Richard Angeli, the poet of lyrical living. With Natika. With Catherine Hanway, we hold blessed for being with my best friend Dan during his last hour of life. Comforted to know that great grief is possible only where there is great love. Please help us pray for the health of our kid, Natalie Cox. May we continue to have strength and hope in order to find the right treatment for them. And Anne Harlow, like many of us, is thinking of Carol Carlisle, who will have repeat hip surgery tomorrow, wishing her a successful surgery and fast healing. And a final prayer asking for peace of mind and heart. And peace of mind and heart, especially for Palestine, and I will extend to Israel and to all who suffer. May each of us know that what is held in our hearts is held in the loving embrace of this community, and by that nameless love that will not, that cannot let us go. May it be so, and amen. Will you sing with me, "The Lone Wild Bird"?
Lofty
I'd like to be enlightened. Wouldn't you? It's such a nice idea. You'd be, just always have just the right thing to say and never get too stirred up about anything. And I don't know when I first got in my head this idea that this state of enlightenment existed, but ever since I heard about it, I wanted it. That probably doesn't help, right? One of the many, many ways that I know that I'm not is that I'm not an animal person. I don't particularly like animals. I know that there's something the matter with me about this. I'm sure I would be a better person if I liked animals, especially dogs, especially in my wife's eyes. My wife is a dog person. We have a dog. My brother is also a dog person. And when I was first seeing my now wife and we were getting together, I was living with my brother and his dog, and all of a sudden there were all these dogs in my life, and so I've been watching dogs and watching myself watching dogs. And there's that moment when two dogs are watching each other. You've seen this moment, right? Where they're maybe their tails are wagging or maybe not, and it's a little scary, but they're still. They're like perfectly still, coiled and ready. And then something happens, and I don't know what it is, but it happens faster than I can even observe, and I can never tell which dog it is that starts it, but all of a sudden from that pregnant stillness, there's motion, and they're playing or fighting or whatever happens next. And I wish I had that kind of aliveness, that kind of in-touchness, whatever it is in the dog that lets it react so seamlessly, so smoothly to whatever just happened, that micro-noticing. But humans, I think we are a little bit more complicated. We find ways to get in the way of ourselves, to get in the way of hearing our own deepest selves. Parker Palmer, I'm going to talk quite a bit about today. Who's a Quaker teacher and an important teacher to me. He describes our relationship with this development, this getting in the way of ourselves, with what he calls a Quaker PowerPoint, which is a strip of paper. He says that it's like this. We begin in a wholeness, where our outer life and our inner lives are one. And that's obvious to anybody who has ever looked at a newborn for just a moment. We begin in wholeness. But then something along the way lets us know that it's not particularly safe. And this sometimes for us happens at school, it sometimes happens at home, but something will tell every one of us that it's not always safe to have that inner life just freely flowing in the outer world. And so we begin to separate. We have one side of our paper, our being in the outer world, that side that's performative a little bit, that's paying attention to what other people think about us, that side that ends up having a lot of goals and purpose and wants to do something with the world. And then we have another side, a side that we keep sheltered, keep private from the world, the side of the inner life that has to do with dreams and feelings and those more tender, soft places in ourselves. So we begin to make that separation, put that barrier up, and then eventually, he says, we figure out that we actually we don't love this divided life. We want that wholeness that we began with, and so we figure out how to bring our inner life to the center. And so our inner life now is what everything is orbiting around. We want our inner life to guide us. This is called being centered, he says. We orient around our inner life, and we still have this outer life that is separate. And as you can see, while there is a connection, there's still that sense of maybe a walled garden, a separate inner life that needs to be protected, cut off from the outer world. And so he says that maybe we develop far enough, long enough, that we learn another way, or we practice another way, which I know for all of the math teachers out there, you know is a Mobius strip. So Parker Palmer says this is really what's true, what's the case in kind of adult wholeness. That we are watching now our inner life, what we believe to be our inner life, or what appears to be our inner life, until suddenly, as we trace our Mobius strip, we're noticing what is our outer life, or what appears to be our outer life. Okay, that's the end of the Quaker PowerPoint. Do you recognize yourself in that at all? This question, how do I relate to my inner life and my outer life? How are they connected? How do I move between them? And where is it safe to show what? Bill Plotkin is a psychologist who has a schema that includes the soul and the spirit, and that's bold and daring for a psychologist these days, even though, of course, that word, psychology, psyche, is the soul. That's the same word, different Roman and Latin, right? But, Greek and Latin. So the soul, Bill Plotkin says, is the opposite direction of spirit. Spirit is universal. It's the high that connects us all, that enlightenment idea. That soul, on the other hand, is individual and unique and downward and inward. And Plotkin's notion is that we have a lot of excitement in our culture and a lot of space in our religious ways for celebrating that sense of spirit, of up and universal, but we don't always get space for the soul. Space to connect with that which is down in us, unique and at the underlying of our being. And I know that I'm on shaky territory for some of you with this soul business, so I'm not claiming that it's something metaphysical or everlasting or anything like that. I'm trying to articulate something that I think is ultimately inarticulatable about what it is that lies at the center of our inner life, what it is that holds us throughout our lives, from the time we are born through when we die, and perhaps longer. So Bill Plotkin wonders, how do we encounter the soul? And while I think occasionally a particularly sagacious trickster, like an old man with a stone, a magic stone, might trick the soul into showing up, more of the time we have to have a certain amount of practice and space in order to listen for the shy soul. I I think that most of us in this room probably are lucky enough to have experienced places in our lives that welcome emotions. We can talk about how we feel. Places that welcome the intellect, where we can talk about our ideas and what we're thinking about. Many of us are trained in practices of listening, particular kinds of listening, reflective listening, empathic listening, all sorts of ways of listening where we have a job to do with our listening. What's rarer is the places of deep listening. The places where there's no agenda but simply stillness. Places that become so still that the soul can speak. Like a wild animal, says Parker Palmer, the soul is tough, resilient, resourceful, savvy, and self-sufficient. It knows how to survive in hard places. He says, I learned about these qualities during my bouts with depression. In that deadly darkness, the faculties that I had always depended on collapsed. My intellect was useless, my emotions were dead, my will was impotent, my ego shattered. But from time to time, deep in the thickets of my inner wilderness, I could sense the presence of something that knew how to stay alive even when the rest of me wanted to die. That something was my tough and tenacious soul. I know Parker Palmer is not the only one who has found that soul, however tenderly, however threadbare, accompanying him through a bout of depression. I've been there, and I know many of you have as well. Depression is one of those opportunities for soul encounter, for finding ourselves face to face with that which holds when all else cannot. Plotkin has this idea that we all need these encounters with the soul, and maybe depression is that's one of the reasons why these periods of depression happen in us, because we're desperate. We need to be faced with our own soul. But he says there are other ways. There's these encounters that people have had for time immemorial. That's what rites of passage are all about. Go alone into the wilderness and stay there until you encounter your own soul. And through that, he says, through that encounter with the soul, our ego, our thinking self, learns its purpose, which is to serve the soul. That's Plotkin's map. I got to experience our Unitarian Universalist coming of age rituals, and on the last retreat, as we went through a year of connecting with each other and ourselves, our last retreat, we went out into the wilderness alone for a few hours during the day and then for 1 hour at night. I was 13 years old. I had never spent an hour alone at night, let alone in the wilderness of Lake Chabot campground, not. But I was scared, and I sat there under my tree in my spot, and to hold myself, to find myself encountering my soul in that moment, music sprang from me. I started to sing to myself. And it was a holy moment. Yet despite its toughness, Palmer says, the soul is shy. Just like a wild animal, it seeks safety in the dense underbrush, especially when other people are around. If we want to see a wild animal, the last thing we should do is go crashing through the woods. shouting for the creature to come out. But if we are willing to walk quietly in the woods and sit silently for an hour or two at the base of a tree, the creature we are waiting for may well emerge, and out of the corner of an eye we will catch a glimpse of the precious wildness we seek. Now, while I was catching my glimpse of precious wildness, I was terrifying my coming-of-age cohort who could hear faintly in the distance me singing, I'm sure, off-key in the wilderness. This is the paradox of spiritual journey. We are ultimately alone in our journey. There are places in the inner life that no one else will ever touch. And we are necessarily together. We can't not find those places, cannot hold them and touch them without the care and support of others. This is why small groups are such an important lifeblood of a religious community, of our religious community, these chalice circles or other small groups where we dwell together in enough stillness, enough silence that each of us can listen to our own inner teacher, can give voice, perhaps in a moment, a glimpse to that wild, shy soul. And it is true that journeying out into the wilderness is often an important part of this. I was on a backpacking trip with my best friend about a year ago, a little over a year ago, and my first time really backpacking. And we'd gone out into the Trinity Alps, and I was just alive that first morning with wonder at the wildness of it all. And in the quiet early morning, I found a doe approaching me, and we were gazing into each other's eyes when my friend bounded up the rocks, yelling about how great the coffee he had just made was and scaring my wild doe away. Unfortunately, Palmer says, community in our culture too often means a group of people who go crashing through the woods together, scaring the soul away. In spaces ranging from congregations to classrooms, we preach and teach, assess and argue, claim and proclaim, admonish and advise, and generally behave in ways that drive everything original and wild into hiding. Under these conditions, the intellect, emotion, will, and ego may emerge, but not the soul. We scare off all the soulful things, like respectful relationships, goodwill, and hope. He boils it down to really a simple set of rules for how to make space where the soul might show up and say something. He says, no fixing, no saving, no advising, no setting each other straight. That's all there is to it. But boy, if you want to sit down and try and practice that, you can notice how quick you want to fix and advise, or at least I do. Fix and advise and set each other straight, save each other. A minister I worked with once, when we would prepare people for these sorts of small groups, she'd tell a story about taking her class out to the wilderness to talk to birds. We put a little bird seed in their hands. So now the thing is, you have to be really still. They're wild animals, so you have to be still and quiet. And so she was demonstrating this. She put a little bird seed in her hand, and she lifted it out, and she was explaining how just still and quiet you needed to be to these kids she was with when a bird landed right there on her hand. And it startled her so much, she screamed and jumped and flung out her hand. It's kind of like what's going to happen at the end of this service. I'm sorry. It is what happens, though. But luckily, we get chance after chance after chance. I'm working on this with Henry right now. It's been years I'm working on it, and I'm still working on it, not to invade his inner life. I want to hear him. I want to hear that soul of his speak to me. I want to know what he's thinking about, what's going on in there, and the more I ask, the less he wants to talk about it. It's not easy. But when we can, I was in a Soul Matters group once, a small group ministry with a man who was slowly walking out of a years-long depression. And he was recovering from alcoholism and from a painful divorce. And over a year of gathering together once a month, I began to notice his presence slowly shift, the heaviness in his shoulders lightening, a warm smile coming more quickly to his lips. He began to share about the fantasy novel he was writing, a story of flying ships based on bedtime stories he told his son. The soul already knows what medicine we need and is always ready to provide it if we can only be patient in our listening. It's what this first Sunday of Advent is all about. The hope is in the waiting. So a few ancient holy words. This is from the 130th Psalm. I wait for the holy. My whole being waits. My soul waits for the holy more than for those who watch for the morning, more than those who watch for the morning. May we have the patience to wait, and may your soul greet you with just what you need. May it be so, and amen.
We invite you now into the spiritual practice of generosity. Instead of passing the plate, you can give electronically by scanning the QR code on the back of your badge. Or you can put a cash or check donation into the donation envelope that you'll find in the back of the pew in front of you. In the back of the pew in front of you. Write your name on it and mark offering plate or pledge, and then put it into the donation box besides the fountain in the atrium as you leave the service. Each week, half of the offering plate is shared with a nonprofit Good Neighbor organization recommended by our wonderful Social Justice Council. Thank you so much for practicing generosity with UUCB and with our good neighbors. And offerings of any amount are deeply appreciated. And this month's Good Neighbor, we will hear about that from our very own Natalie Campbell.
Hi, good morning. The speaker from Safe Return Project A Day was not able to make it. She called me this morning sick and just so upset she couldn't make it. So she sent me something that's on my phone that I'm going to read to you, but I don't have my reading glasses, so fingers crossed. Okay. The Safe Return Project's mission is to end mass incarceration and mass criminalization of Black people and people of color, and to re-enfranchise individuals and communities that have been disenfranchised as a result of criminalization racial disparity, and poverty. Safe Return accomplishes these goals through community organizing, participatory action research, and policy advocacy. We invest deeply in the leadership development of those directly impacted by the criminal injustice system to create and lead movements for mass liberation. We empower individuals reintegrating after incarceration through the various programs we offer, like the Richard Boyd Fellowship, which is a paid year-long program emphasizing decision-making and governance. The Collective Impact Institute workshops support the personal transformation of formerly incarcerated individuals. Our Credible Messenger mentorship program engages at-risk youth with credible messengers to instill positive activities, positive thinking, and creating a system of support. We also have violence prevention programs such as our Young Latinx Men's Support Group, which offers workshops on accessing healing resources and building community power. In addition, we have the Sister Circle, which supports women, young girls, and gender nonconforming individuals, offering life and career coaching, trauma healing, conflict resolution strategies, and trauma-informed counseling. The work we do allows us to foster connections with labor unions, stakeholders, and new emerging industries, urging the inclusion of formerly incarcerated individuals with challenging backgrounds. Moreover, we advocate for policies that advance housing access, fair employment, civic engagement, voting rights restoration for those currently incarcerated. They were awarded the 2023 Good Neighbor, and they are also on the ballot for the 2024 Good Neighbor. So thank you for listening about Safe Return, and Reverend Marcus said that while I'm up here, I can also let everyone here know that we do have ballots that will be out there until 1 o'clock today, paper ballots, and you can vote for up to 11 of the organizations that were selected by congregation members like all of you. And the Social Justice Council had them come and speak on Thursday, and they were amazing. If you'd like to see the video, come see me. I'll be at the back table, and if you have any questions, I will be back there too. Voting will go until 5 p.m. online. Thank you so much.
Please join me in dedicating our offering. We dedicate our offering and ourselves to the mission of this congregation to create loving community, inspire spiritual growth, and encourage lives of integrity, joy, and service.
Heard. Okay. If you are new to us, there's always folks at the welcome table after the service in the atrium who can answer questions that you have. And if you'd like to know what's happening in the life of our community, it's under the news section on the website. On Saturday, next Saturday, December 9th, from 1 to 4, invite everyone to be part of loving community activities, reaching out to elders and others to remind them that we are thinking of them with love and appreciation, make cookies and write cards to fill holiday bags to send around. So come for some community caring next Saturday afternoon. The next day, on Sunday morning, personal theology will be spiritual reflections about the climate crisis with Kiran Rana, who is a wonderful human being I've known from the Oakland Unitarian Church. So you can be here in the fireside or on Zoom. And then for the first time that same day, December 10th, our holiday fair will happen at the same time, the same day as our famous Messiah sing-along. So stick around for the holiday fair after the service at noon. We'll go through the intermission of the sing-along. Come to the sing-along. Tickets are still available on the website and at the door. And lastly, we are going to have our scheduled fire drill today, immediately after the service, before the Humanist Connection. So don't panic. Exit the sanctuary. I hear calm and orderly, but quickly is in order. Using the edge pathways and the middle. You can exit towards Lawson Road. If you use a wheelchair, please exit by using the ramp on the left of the sanctuary. And you'll see exit signs in the back. Don't just leave immediately, though. We're going to gather everybody in the parking lot, give an all clear once I've had a chance to check in with Tess, and then we'll come on back in and have our coffee hour as usual, so stick around if you can. Will you rise once more in body or in spirit, and let's sing together. Now let us sing. Of all who are afraid, let us sing to the power of the joy within. Reach out a hand or touch a shoulder or just reach out to the great beyond. Let us be connected. There is a voice still and small, deep inside all. There is a voice within you that has what you need. May we be patient in our hoping, be patient in our waiting, be still in our listening, that we may journey with one another wherever the soul takes us. May it be so, and amen.